start our third module of the VAPT part. That would be our last enumeration part. So let me tell you about this enumeration word. It's also an active scanning process. It's an active method. So enumeration is your third phase of your VA part, which is your vulnerability assessment, figuring out the loopholes and extract the information on the server side. So over here, let's talk. If we talk about the word enumeration phase, attacker creates an active condition. It means we will make a proper three-way handshake, and the server knows that to a system to perform direct queries to gain more information about the target. So which kind of information you're going to look for? For example, attacker use extracted information to identify system attack points. System attack point means the weak point to identify. And perform password attack to gain unauthorized access to the information system resources. Unauthorized password hacking or malicious things can be happen over there one by one. So our major objective of today is we're gonna try all the possibilities to gain unauthorized access or extract the information. We are not going to provide a proper hack part. We're gonna try to gain information. So let's have a look over here. So which kind of information we're gonna take? So there are lots of types of information we're gonna try to escalate. For example, you can see we're gonna extract usernames using email IDs, extract information using default passwords. Default password means we are not aware about the upgradation of security. And if you talk about the username as using SNMP, brute force Active Directory, extract group users and Windows. Group users means your admin group, your local group, your system groups. Each and every group has a different differentiate, and extract information using zone transfer attack. So all these attacks has been confirmed from the protocols. And the most important thing today we're going to start is your Smb enumeration. So if I talk about the Smb enumeration, see over here. Today we have a victim machine which has an IP address 192.168.0.124. So before the theoretical part, I'm going to run a simple Nvt Scan. So the backend, the scan will be completed, and we're going to look for the information, what actually the Smb enumeration means, and the IP address. So let's have a look over here. What actually Smb means. So Smb protocol, server message block, is a protocol on the server side which works on the port number 139445. And each and every Smb version has a different operating system also. For example, Smb function is a request response client and server communication tool, which is basically used to share files and communicate with the supporting NetBIOS protocol. NetBIOS is also a part of your Smb server, which stands for Network Basic Input-Output System. So if you see over here, NetBIOS is a service which allows communication network applications such as printer or other computers in the internet to token ring by NetBIOS names. NetBIOS provides a name on your server. For example, if my server name is Partho, so it will work on the NetBIOS name services. So you can see over here, NetBIOS name is 16-digit long character assigned to a computer is working by bins for name of resolutions or IP address. And the most important thing, we were talking about the workgroup and the domain. Remember, these two words are important. Why? Because these play a major role. So our major perspective over here, workgroup is just like a peer-to-peer network communication of 10 computers. See over here, peer-to-peer connection means a proper connectivity. And in the work group, there would be total 10 PCs in the same LAN or a subnet. A work group is just like a domain, which this belongs to a centralized administrator, which means no computer has control over another computer. They are independent. Each users control the resource and security local on their own system. And if we talk about the domain, in domain, it's a client and server network. Up to 2,000 computers in the world. The administrator manages the domain and its users to resources. A user with the account or the domain can log onto the computer system without having any account on that PC. Just you need a proper account of that domain. So a domain, a workgroup, and a domain is a totally different thing. And the NetBIOS and the Samba protocols works on the port number. You can see over here, they works on port number 135, 137, 138, 139, 445. These ports are the important thing, and some of the ports are TCP ports and some are UDP ports, Transmission Control Protocol and User Datagram Protocol. As we know, the TCP protocol is basically used to make a reliable communication with the client and the server. And the most important thing, 135 is your RPC port, which is your remote procedure call. RPC plays a major thing over there. For example, if you have entered any application or if you install any new application on the server side, RPC will provide an open running port to that application that will be used for communicating with other resources. The 137, which is your name server, which is your computer name, as you said, Craw Security, Craw Sec. Each and every server has a name over here. For example, my server name is root kali over here, the domain name we are talking about. And the scan has been done, as we can see. But our major perspective over here would be to check what are the third port. 138. The 138 port is basically used to share this file system. As per the Samba is used for sharing files with the two clients, client and server protocol. And 139 is your NetBIOS session service. NetBIOS session service means that the user is currently active on that specific domain. And 445, which is our Smb protocol, Samba protocol. So Samba protocol is the important part, which is also a part of your kernel. So if we talk about 135, you can see over here, it's a remote procedure call between the client and server to listen to the query of the client. Basically, it's used for communication with the client and client to server for sending messages. See over here on the screen. Over here, I'm using my Firefox. I'm using my terminal. And so the major perspective, check out the services which is running on the specific server. So over here, I'm going to use a cheat sheet, which is my Botmilk Linux file expression. So there are lots of commands which is given over here. We're gonna check we're gonna check the application which is running in the backend server. See what other users hosts are communicating with the system. If you want to check what other applications are running in the specific server, you can use the following command. Just like we're gonna use any of this one. I'm gonna use netstat ANTUP. So what exactly the application, what are the services are running in the specific server? For example, my local server. So let's use netstat to check the applications and the services which is running. So let's do netstat help. So as per the data which is given over there, ANTUP, what exactly this means, ANTUP? We just want to know the procedure also, functionality. So if you search over here, A stands for display all the sockets, the connection, the connectivity. N stand for numeric, which is an IP address. T stand for TCP port, U stand for UDP ports, and P stand for PID, your process identification number. So let's have netstat. Let's start ANTUP. See over here. In my local server, you can see all the TCP ports over here. These are my local services which is running in my local server, and these are foreign address, which is I made a connectivity. State through this statement you can identify is it on listening mode or is it making a connection. So in my local server, Postgre is running, and over here I have making a connection with the Firefox. You can see over here, and these 110, which is my local server IP address, and you can see they have changed the IP address according to the server. These are server IP address. And in the bottom, you can see some of the application which is running over here, which is UDP ports. For example, when you activate a services on a server side, the most important thing of enumeration is to identify what other services are running on the server, so an attacker can use it for exploiting part. So services like SSH, I'm going to start SSH over here. Service SSH start. So let's have a look. Now you can see the SSH is running on my local server. Or we can try netstat pipe command grep function SSH. So you can see over here, through the netstat, you can also check the applications on what other services are running. The major objective of the enumeration is to extract the informations of the services which is running on the server side, not the exploiting part, only the server part. You can try PSAUX also, process executions, grep SSH. See, the process application is also used to identify what other services are running. For example, see this one. What services are running? Which services has the user privileges? PSAUX, PSEF, or top. If you try the top over here, you will see a task manager, just like your Windows. See, the major objective of the enumeration is to extract the services. Let's try PSAUX. You will see a bunch of files over here. The major objective of the process execution is to check which application is running with which privilege user. Each and every user on the server side has an authority, so we have to check one by one all the possibilities. So our major agenda of this enumeration is to check what are the users. For example, you can see some of the applications which is running as root. Let's use PSEF. You can also check the application which is running over there. You can see over here, you can see some of the Firefox is running. Yeah, the current statement. But the majority of this enumeration part is all about Smb enumeration. But there are lots of type of enumeration we can provide. The Samba and the NetBIOS are interconnected. You can see over here, 137 is the name of the operates or which works on the port number 137, which is a UDP port. The name services privilege offered by the NetBIOS are add name, add group name, delete name, find name. So we can check one by one all the things. 138, which is your data mode, which is basically used to transfer files, send datagrams, send broadcast datagrams, receive datagrams. It's the sharing files which is work on the port number 138. The Samba manages these protocols. 139 is basically used to make a session that the current user is active on that specific server, so we can communicate with that one properly, which can we use it for the further stages. Which you can see over here: call, listen, hang up, send message, send, no act, and receive. A connection allows messages to span multiple packets and provide error detection recovery. And the last and the least is your 445, which is used for Samba protocol server message block for sharing files between different operating systems. For example, Windows to Windows, Unix to Unix, and Unix to Windows. There are many further things can be happened over there, and which can lead us to for information gathering. So today over here we have a victim machine. We have a victim machine which is our metasploitable, and we're gonna try to check the Samba ports on the server side. So as we know, the Samba ports, which is over here, is your 135, 137, 138, 139, and 445. So let's have a look over here, what we can proceed with these things. And let's listen, the most important thing, let me introduce you. Each and every Samba version has a different operating system also. through the Smb version 1, through the Smb version 3.1, there's a different lots of OS operating systems. So our major objective of this enumeration topic is to simply check one by one all the possibilities. Like you can see Smb version 1, which works on Windows 2008, 2000, Windows 2000, Windows XP, Windows Server. Operating system, listen, operating system and servers are different. Remember this thing. The servers are different then. Operating system, which is an iOS, and the server is depends on the iOS control. So you can see Windows Server 2003 and Windows Server 2003 R2. Most of the applications till now they are working with the Windows XP. Smb 2.0 Windows Vista, you can see over here. Server 2008. 2.1, which comes Windows 7 and Windows Server 2008 R2. 3.0 Windows 8 and Windows Server 2012. Windows 3.2, this is the version used for Windows 8.1 and Windows Server 2012 R2. And the last 3.1, which works on the Windows Server 2016, and the operating system we have is Windows 10. And each and every Smb protocol has a different thing. And what you're going to learn over here, you're going to learn about banner grabbing, RID cycling, using listing of the group membership information, sharing enumeration, detecting if a host is a workgroup or a domain, identify the remote operating system, and password policy retrieval. So over here, what you have to do, first thing, you have to try Nmap. If we have a server, so we have already scanned the server side, but I'm going to try again because we know that there is a 139 and 445 is open. So it's a Samba server. So if you want to check the ports are open on the server or not, you can try nmap-p, specify the port number. Let's try the common port, which is your 135, 137, 138, 139, 445. Not all the ports will be open. Might be 139 and 445 be open right there. -T4 for your faster execution, and the IP address. And I'm going to use show me is it open or closed. So over here, what I can see through the scan, I can identify that only 139.445 is open over there. Otherwise, what we can do, we can try to scan the entire network to identify which service is running 445 and 139. Our organization might be have hundreds of PCs or thousands of PCs, so we have to scan entire thing one by one. That could be lead us for information getting. So our major objective of this one is to simply penetrate the skills one by one, so we can use different things. So over here, we can see that the 139 has the port number. Only we have the Oracle VirtualBox, which has the IP address 124, which has the port number 139 and 445. So our major objective is to simply penetrate the skills and identify if we can have any file sharing is available or not. Or you can try one by one all the possibilities to check if we can simply hack this thing. So let's have a look. So which tool we're going to use over here? So they have using the Nmap to identify a normal scan over there. So the major objective of this one, if we're going to use one by one all the groups over there. For example, NNB lookup, Mbt Scan, Smb map, Smb client, RPC client, and Nmap on email folder. What are these tools? First of all, we're going to read about this one. So NNB lookup is basically used to check whether the service is registered which domain. If you want to check the domain name, which domain that specific server belongs to, you can use NNB lookup. NNB is used to query the NetBIOS names and map the IP address to a NetBIOS over the TCP/IP queries. And it will basically specify the broadcast area where the particular machine belongs to. As we have mentioned, the domain word, the work group, and the domain. So if you look over here on the screen, NNB lookup. So if you doesn't know about those things, you can write man, which is a manual over there. Nvt lookup is used to query NetBIOS names and map them up to IP address in a network using NetBIOS over TCP queries. The options of allow the name queries to be directed to a particular IP broadcast and particular machines. All queries are done over UDP port. So let's have a look which function we're going to use over here. We're going to use the capital A. Interpret the name of the IP address and do node status query. It means to identify which this IP belongs to. So we're going to use Nvt lookup -a and the IP address. So over here, what I can see that the machine name is Metasploitable. The machine name over here is Metasploitable, and we can extract all the services one by one, and which can be lead us for information getting part. So our major objective would be to check all the possibilities that could be information. If you look for these queries like 00, 03, 20, 01, these are some code registered. For example, if you want to check which domain the server is registered, you can check in Windows also. For example, I'm going to run a Windows server. This is my Windows XP. So my main objective would be to check the possibilities one by one, and we're going to try to check through the CMD. So I'm going to use Nvt Stat -a and the IP address. So let me check the IP address first of all. So ifconfig. Okay, sorry. It will be IP config. So the IP address is 112. So let's use Nvt Stat. Nvt Stat is also used for your NNB lookup, just like your NNB lookup. So I can open help. So over here, I'm going to use the -a command. List a remote machine name table given in the name. So we're going to check for the domain belongs to. See, this domain is basically registered. See, the NetBIOS name is Ma, which is unique over here. 000020 IE. You can see the applications over here. For example, if you want to check this thing, you can check over here also. 00 stands for workstation that the server is running. Messenger application is running over there. If you see the 03, remote access share services access. 20, if the 20 is available, file services are available. 21, remote access services client, domain master client, a browser, primary domain controller. You can see master browser, workstation services. You have to specify one by one all the things you have to look over here, which can be used to identify the services over on the server side. Let's see. Otherwise, if you want to scan the NetBIOS name services on the entire network, you can use Mbt Scan. See over here, there's one more tool which is same like you to identify the NetBIOS services on the network. Through the Mbt Scan, you can identify the number of devices, means the Samba devices, the NetBIOS devices are all over there. Why? Because the port number 555B might be open. This is a command utility that tries to scan the NetBIOS name service and opened on a local area with a TCP/IP network with the finding of the open shares. It is created on the functionality of the Windows standard tool like your Nvt Scan, which works on the Windows operating system. So let's have a look of Nvt Scan. So Nvt Scan -v verbose, and I'm going to scan the entire network. You can see over here, the first IP address we can see is 104. It's showing us that there is a 20.0.0.0 open, which is a desktop on my local server. The base machine IP address. This is my base machine IP address. We have 112. 112 was our Windows XP over here. And over here we can see the NetBIOS name services open, which is also marked. And if you look for the 124, you will see the NetBIOS name service is Metascore. And through the Nvt Scan, you can do the NNV lookup, same like over here. There's no difference. You can see over here. This is just basically to identify the Samba servers on the local network, which can be used for information gathering part. And the major objective, attacker try to gain unauthorized access on the server. See this one. When you find there is a Samba server on the network, you can try Smb map. Smb map is basically an application which allows you to map out all the share folders or the share files on the server side. Smb map allows user to enumerate Samba shared drives across the entire domain, list shared drives, drive permissions, share content, and upload download functionality. You can see all the things are over there which can be used for the things. So let's use Smb map. Let's check what are the files are available, what the share files are available that an attacker can communicate without any username and password. So we're gonna use Smb map. I can help them. Always check the allow applications and see how they are used, those things. If you have the user, you can communicate with that server. If you know the domain name, which is a work group, and the host, you can communicate with the server. And if you have the username and you have a hash format, a hash of the password, you can also communicate with this one. So the major objective of over here, we're gonna use -H IP of host, and we're gonna use -R also, recursive list directories and files which are shared on the server. So Smb map -H. By defaultly, it will connect with the port number 4445. And see what I can see over here, that print directory, OPD directory, IPC admin directory has no access. But we have a temp directory which is showing us read and write permission. Read and write permissions are available over there. It means we can communicate with that share folder with a temp directory. Or we can do -R recursive. What are the files are available on that specific directory? See, on the temp directory, there are some files like your normal system files. These are normal system files over there. We can only see the files which is available on the temp directory. -R recursive let you know about the shares and file folders on the server side. Because in the back end it will communicate or make a connection with the target. And why this is happening? Because of the default credentials which I mentioned you, default passwords. We Sometimes we never we set we set a default password or a small password, which can be break in a minutes or a hour. So the major perspective of this attack is to simply gain unauthorized access, which can lead us for information gathering. And the most important thing is to simply identify one by one all the possibilities that could be lead us for information part. For example, there are many other ways that we can use it for. The major perspective of this machine is to gain unauthorized access. But before unauthorized access, an attacker has to simply extract the server part. So let's have a look. If you want to communicate with SM, you can check what are the share folders are over there, or we can communicate with that Samba server in our local server also. For example, we can use our Kali Linux to communicate. So over here, what we're gonna do, we're gonna try all the possibilities one by one and look for the relevant information. So you can see over here other locations. In other locations, you can communicate. You can simply make your own queries on server that could be lead us to. So over here, you can see there are some servers like your Ma, desktop, and Metasploit. See, I'm on the Metasploit server now. Can we communicate with the Ma? Okay, in the Ma, they are asking me for the username and password. Okay, so let's do door. Can we communicate? No, the password is incorrect. See, this is my local server, which is my base machine IP address. You can't stop this operation by clicking once. So if you want to communicate with any of the server of Samba server, you can write Smb and the IP address. See, as we know that there was a only we can get enter to the read and write. See, now again they are asking me a registered user or an anonymous user. So if you talk about the anonymous user, it means it's not gonna ask me the password. The anonymous means default credentials. Don't ask me the password. A system default user. And see, we can simply get in. And if an attacker gain access to any of the directory, the most important thing, they have read and write permission on the temp. Read permission is okay, but they have the write permission. Through this thing, an attacker simply plays a malware, a virus on the server, or it can create any of the files. For example, see, I'm going to add a new folder, and that will be my cross-sec. And if you look over here again, there is a folder of cross-sec now. Why? Because an attacker can gain anonymous access and gain and create some files over there. I can create a lot of files, a malware over there. So if a malware get executed from any of the clients on server side, it will be executed. So our major perspective over here is to simply gain information, but the information should be reliable. So if an attacker simply gain access, he can communicate, or he can try any further malicious scripts. Or if you want to communicate with a specific server, you can use the CLI version, which is your Smb client. Smb client is a client that can be talked for Smb CFS server. It offers an interface similar to the FTP program. FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol. So it's Assembly client is also used for making a direct connection with the server, and we can make a proper access. For example, let me show you one thing. I know the username and password of the server. Hmm? So what we're gonna do over here, if you know any of the username and passwords, that could be lead us to information getting part, so we can make an access. So I know some of the applications over here. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna try the default credentials. Let's have a try. If you know the username of the work group, this is a work group, okay. So let's connect with this server. So over here, I'm gonna use Smb map, and we're gonna use it for making a connectivity. If you know the username, so Smb map -h, the host, which is my 1024, -d, the metasploitable, the domain name, okay, and -u is the username which I'm using, MSF admin, which is a default credential of metasploitable, and -p, password, MSF admin. See, now if we talk about the specific user, MSF admin, he has print directory, read only, temp directory, read and write, OPT directory, read only, IPC no access, MSF admin, read and write. If you are any part of that specific application, you can extract those applications one by one. I mean, which can be lead us for information getting part. So you should know the domain name, which work group there. The work group which I was using is Metasploitable, as we have mentioned on the NetBIOS work group. You can see one by one all the things are being cleared. Smb animation topic. It's all about information extraction. How an attacker can extract the information in a single particular protocol, which can be lead us for information getting part. There are many other ways that can be helped. For example, we were talking about Smb client. Let's have a look. Have a look. Smb client is just like a client server communication tool, but through Smb client we can make a proper program like your FTP server to transfer files or put files to the command line. So over here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the capital L, get a list of share available on the host, and I'm going to use capital N. Don't ask me for the password because we're going to use anonymous access. So let's try Smb client, capital L, and the IP address. So the double forward slash is just like your step up on server. Now it's gonna ask me a password. So we don't have the password. So in this scenario, I'm gonna use hit enter. So through the hit enter, I can see we have all the information that we're going to look. We have print, we have Smb, which saying all nodes, some other files, and the version of Samba. The Samba version is important because through the Samba version, an attacker can enumerate or extract information which can be lead us for gaining unauthorized access. Each and every services, remember, each and every services on the server is important. So we have to look all the possibilities that could be lead us. So Samba 3.0.20, you can see over here. And let's try to communicate with the temp directory. So if you want to communicate with the temp directory, all you have to do is to remove the list over here because we already have the number of lists available, shared list. So let's try with the temp PMP, and we are in. See, if you have the SMB like this one, it means you have gained access to that server. So our major perspective would be to check all the possibilities one by one, which can be lead us for information gathering part. So over here, let's try question mark. So you can see what are the available files over there. We can use it for information gathering. So through these available applications, we can try to check one by one all the possibilities which can be lead us for information gathering part, and we can try for more further things. For example, let's do ls command. Through the ls command, I can see the number of share folders. You can see there is ls. You can use mkdir for make directories. Let's do mkdir prime. Yes, we can, through the SMB client, we can also create some files over there on the server side. Through the SMB client, you can simply fetch the files with the help of get command. To fetch any file from the SMB server, you can use get and the file name. Or if you want to put a file from your side, you can use put command. Or an attacker can delete the files also. So where is a put command over here? The put command is over there. And see this one by one, all the possibilities. These are some files over there. The dot ones are the hidden files. An attacker can communicate with the server with the help of the Kali Linux, or we can use it for SMB client also. All the things has been a thing. All the things has a descriptions. For example, each and every protocol has a functionality, and each and every protocol has a tool also. So we have to look one by one all the things. So we have tried all the possibilities, just like your SMB, NNB lookup, Nvt Scan, finding out the NetBIOS name services, finding out the share folders on the server, SMB map, communicating with the server, client to make a connection with that part, and the list of share folders. And the last thing we're going to do over here, it's known as null session, which is our topic over here, which is an important topic, and that would be our RPC client. We're going to use RPC, but there is a word of null session. What exactly the null session means over here? There was a time without a username and password in Windows XP, an attacker can gain access to the driver sessions. Through the driver registries, he can get more information. He can gain lots of information over there. Securing server message block, which is your Samba against null session information. Null session functionality with the SMB protocol enables anonymous access, means default credentials access to the hidden administrator shared on the systems. Full possibilities. Once a user is connected to the share through a null session, he can enumerate information about the system and their environment. And for that case, to communicate with the null session, they use RPC client. And RPC client is a utility initially developed to test MSRPC, Microsoft Remote Procedure Call, functionality with Samba. So these applications can be used to make a connectivity of the Samba environment or the system environment. So what an attacker tried to do, if you see through the null session, if he doesn't know the username and password, we can use SMB client hyphen u stand for user. So I'm gonna put, I doesn't know the username, so it will be anonymous. So I will put the blank over here and the IP address and enter. Now it's gonna ask me a password, so enter, and we are in. Now the most important topic is over here is to simply check what are the applications are available. So these are some objectives we can try one by one. Get username, create secrets. We are not going to use any of this one. We're gonna try to extract the usernames or the domain usernames. Let's try this one. See, these are local domain username, which is your game, nobody, bin, proxy, user, system, user. These are local system usernames. Just like if I simply open my local server, which is one etc password, these are all system users. So let's try group users also. What are the groups are available over there? There is no group. ls group, none of the ls group is there. Domain names, let's try the domain names over here. So we know the domain name, which is Metasploitable. So, but the major objective of this animation is to extract the usernames of the system. You see, there is a MSF admin. Each and every, these are some system users also. System users can play a different role over there. So we have to check one by one all the possibilities that could lead us for information level. So there are many further things we can try, but our major objective will be to check all the things one by one, which can be lead us for the exploiting part. We have tried all the things manually, but there is one tool which can perform all the things one by one. Sometimes we have to use the manual approach because if there is a one tool which can provide all the queries one by one, and that is your enum for Linux, which stands for enumerate for Linux, which will do all the things: RID cycling, relative identification numbers, user listing names, listing of group memberships, share enumerations, detecting if the host is what group or domain, identify the remote message call or the password policy retrieval. We can try all the things one by one. So let's have a look. Enum for Linux. So enum for Linux you can use options like over here given -u, get the user list, get the machine list, shared list, password policy. You can try one by one. But my major objective over here would be -a. Do all simple animation USGPRIONM, because if I'm not going to use all this function because it will make a query a length. So either we can use enumerate for Linux -a and check all the possibilities which is on the server. See, there are lots of users, just local users that we find in the RPC clients. See, this was the we are talking about. And after finding the local users, you can perform a brute force scan on the server. We can see Nvt Scan informations that we already know about this one. OS information on the server side, 124, 500, 124 server, which can see all the usernames on the server side. See, a proper user is given over here. The share folders, assembly client, the local system users. See, whatever we have done with the manual approach, we can try the enough for Linux to do all the possibilities one by one. Smb Enumeration is just a small topic, but the word animation is a big topic, and that will cover a lot of things. If I talk about the animation part, this was just a big thing. There are further ports to enumerate, like your SMTP, which is your port number 25. The port 25 they were using. The port 21, which is your FTP. You'll see the FTP is also using anonymous user. It doesn't have the username or password set. You can communicate with the FTP server. Anonymous. Toshiba LS, you're on the server side. So there's lots of further things can be happen. It's all about the default credentials, default password sets, and many more further things can be happen. And it was all about the SMB animation, but there are DNS animation, there is SMTP animation, there are lots of further animation that can be used for information gathering part. Null session.